I hadn't eaten in 2 days when I sat in that cramped plasma donation chair, the fluorescent lights buzzing above me like angry bees. The nurse slid the needle into my arm, smiled, then glanced at the microscope and froze. Her face went pale. "Ma'am," she whispered, "please don't move." Her voice shook as she reached for the phone. 6 months ago, I was Violet Hart, CEO of a booming construction company, a woman who built skyscrapers and believed nothing could break her. Now I was a broke divorcee selling plasma for $50. The nurse returned, trembling. "Your blood," she said, almost reverently. "It's Rohypnol, golden blood. Only 43 people on Earth have it." Before I could speak, the medical director rushed in. "Miss Hart, there's a billionaire in Monaco who will die within hours without your type. His family is offering." The number he said made my hands shake. 6 months earlier, I was Violet Hart, the woman people in Kansas City called the Iron Lady of Construction. I'd built Hart Construction Group from nothing, just a rusted pickup, a set of blueprints, and more grit than sense. We were good, damn good. I had 15 employees, 4 crews, and a reputation for finishing impossible jobs. The city trusted me with demolition projects no one else would touch. My name meant something. My company trucks carried my initials, VH, in bold blue paint, a mark of pride that felt unshakable. And then came the Bridgepoint Mall project. It was supposed to be our biggest win, a $25 million demolition and rebuild contract. My project manager, Gabe Collins, assured me every safety line was cleared. "Gas, electric, water, everything's disconnected, boss." I should have checked myself. At 10:14 a.m., on a Thursday, I was reviewing blueprints in the trailer when the ground shuddered. A blast of white light flashed through the window, followed by a sound like the sky splitting open. The forgotten gas line, buried since 1963, had ruptured under the old mall foundation. Flames roared up like a monster awakened from the ground. By some miracle, no one died, but the explosion made the evening news in every state. The headline the next morning gutted me. "Negligence at Hart Construction Site, millions in damages." The lawsuits came faster than I could breathe. City, gas company, private businesses. My insurance agent, a slick man in a navy suit, handed me a stack of papers with a look that said, "Don't shoot the messenger." "Clause 14B, he said. "Independent verification required. You signed off on it. The policy doesn't cover negligence. But the blueprints." He shrugged. "The city's error doesn't void your responsibility." 2 weeks later, the contracts were frozen, the accounts seized. I went from managing multi-million projects to begging banks not to auction off my equipment. And that's when Evan, my husband, stopped coming home. He'd been my cheerleader once, the man who used to bring coffee to my work sites, who said he loved watching me in a hard hat. But success is intoxicating until it evaporates. The night the foreclosure notice arrived, he stood by the door with his suitcase. "Evan, please," I said, voice cracking. "We can rebuild. I just need time." He didn't even look at me. "I didn't marry a failure, Violet. You're broke and I'm not drowning with you." The front door clicked shut behind him, and the silence afterward felt heavier than any steel beam I'd ever lifted. I sat on the floor of that empty house surrounded by unpaid invoices, realizing the empire I'd built with my hands had collapsed in a single breath. And I had no one left but myself. The morning after Evan left, the coffee pot was still half full, its smell sour and burnt. His toothbrush was gone, his closet empty except for one of my old hard hats sitting on the shelf like a cruel joke. I stared at the eviction notice taped to the fridge, the red letters screaming "Foreclosure pending." Everything I had worked for gone. The business, the house, the man I thought would stand beside me when it all fell apart. My sister Dana called that afternoon. "Vi, you can't stay there alone. Come stay with us," she said softly. "I'm fine," I lied. "No, you're not. You sound hollow." By evening, I was driving 3 hours west in my old Ford, the same truck that once carried blueprints and pride. Now it carried boxes labeled kitchen, tools, what's left. Dana and her husband Rick greeted me kindly but cautiously. Their home smelled like fresh paint and normalcy, the kind of stability I used to mock as small dreams. Now, it felt unreachable. They cleared space in the basement concrete floor, one small window, a fold-out cot that groaned when I sat on it. Dana hugged me, whispering, "It's temporary, Vi. You'll find your way back." But temporary stretched into weeks. I applied for job after job, assistant project manager, forewoman, even clerk positions, but every interview ended the same. You're overqualified. We're looking for someone younger. Your reputation might draw attention. The polite rejections cut deeper than insults ever could. At night, I'd lie on the cot staring at the basement ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of Dana's kids laughing upstairs, their life continuing as mine stayed paused. The hum of the washing machine became my lullaby. One night, I overheard Rick whispering through the floorboards. "She's trying, honey, just don't let her stay too long." The bills. I stopped listening. By January, my checking account showed $47.80. I sold my last gold bracelet for gas money. Every morning, I'd sit at the kitchen table with Dana, pretending to look up jobs on my old laptop while secretly calculating how long before I became her burden. The thought of calling Evan crossed my mind once, just once. I even typed the message, "I'm sorry. Can we talk?" But I deleted it before sending. He didn't deserve to hear my voice. That night, I stood outside on the porch, the winter wind cutting through my coat, staring at the stars that looked like holes punched through heaven. I whispered to the darkness, "God, I built everything from nothing once. I can do it again. Can't I?" But the silence that followed was colder than the air. I went back inside, looked at my wallet, and saw a single 20, a 10, a 5, and a few crumpled ones. The next morning, as I walked toward the library to use their Wi-Fi for job listings, I saw a glowing sign across the street, BioLife Plasma Center, new donors $50. And for the first time in months, I thought, maybe that's enough to survive one more week. I stood on the sidewalk staring at the glowing blue sign, BioLife Plasma Center, new donors $50. $50. It sounded both pathetic and life-saving. Enough for gas, maybe groceries, maybe a few days of pretending I still had control over my life. Inside, the air smelled like disinfectant and quiet despair. A row of tired faces sat beneath buzzing, fluorescent lights, students, single parents, men in work boots, all clutching clipboards. I fit right in. At the reception desk, a young woman handed me a stack of forms. "First time donating?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "First time, doing a lot of things." The questions were humiliating. "Have you eaten today? Are you currently unemployed? Is this donation due to financial hardship?" I checked yes on all three, and my hand trembled as I signed my name, Violet Hart. A nurse called it from across the room. "Miss Hart? This way, please." She was in her mid-20s, bright-eyed, kind. Her name tag read Keely. "Don't worry," she said, leading me to a recliner chair. "Everyone's nervous their first time. Just don't tell me it hurts." "I won't lie," she smiled. "But I'll make it quick." The needle slid in cleanly, and a stream of dark red filled the tube. For a moment, I just stared. My father used to donate blood at the Red Cross when I was a kid. He'd say, "It's the easiest way to do something good." I wasn't doing good. I was doing desperate. "You've got strong veins," Keely said cheerfully, checking the monitor. "Nice color, too. Is that good?" "That's great." She hummed a tune while noting something on the screen, but then her humming stopped. Her brow furrowed. She leaned closer to the collection bag, then back at me. That's odd." "What's odd?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "Probably nothing. I just want to double-check." She withdrew a small vial of my blood and walked toward a corner microscope. Her movements were suddenly precise, cautious. I watched her lean over the eyepiece, freeze, then look again. When she turned around, her face had drained of color. "Ma'am," she said quietly, "please don't move. I need to get the director." "What's wrong? Am I sick?" I blurted. No, please, just stay still." She hurried out, the door swinging shut behind her. My heart pounded. Around me, donors scrolled their phones, unaware that my world was collapsing again or maybe exploding. Minutes passed. Then the door opened. A tall man in a lab coat entered, clipboard in hand, eyes sharp and curious. "Dr. Brennan," according to his badge. "Miss Hart," he said, "I need to ask a few questions." "About what?" "Your blood." Keely ran it 3 times. "Is something wrong with it?" "Quite the opposite." He pulled up a stool and sat close, the kind of proximity that makes you nervous. "You have Rh null blood," he said. "It's the rarest known blood type on Earth. Only 43 documented people have it. I laughed, a sharp, nervous sound. 43? That can't be right. It's extremely rare, he said calmly. Your blood can save people who'd otherwise die without a match. I stared at the collection bag beside me, at the dark liquid pulsing through the line. So, what does that mean? Am I valuable? Let's just say hospitals would call you a miracle. It is a choir in the Conster. His phone buzzed. He frowned as he answered, whispering rapid medical jargon. When he hung up, the energy in the room changed. Someone's coming to see you, he said. They'll explain everything. Just please, don't leave. To see me? Who? He hesitated, then looked at me with something between awe and fear. A family from Monaco, he said. There's a billionaire there who will die within hours without your blood type. I blinked. What? They're sending a representative as we speak. I laughed again. Because what else could I do? Doctor, I came here for $50. He nodded solemnly. Then today, Miss Hart, might be the day your life changes forever. I sat frozen in that recliner, the needle still in my arm, as Dr. Brennan's words sank in. Only 43 people on Earth. The hum of machines filled the silence between us. My thoughts tangled into one dizzying loop. Billionaire. Monaco. Dying. My blood. Doctor, there has to be some mistake, I said finally. I'm not special. I came here for $50 and gas money. Miss Hart, he said calmly, you're special whether you believe it or not. Raw null blood isn't just rare, it's universal for all negative types. It's what we call golden blood. People with your type are living lifelines. I looked at the bag beside me. The slow drip of crimson that suddenly didn't feel like blood. It felt like currency, power, something far beyond my understanding. So, what happens now? We'll need more tests, but... He stopped mid-sentence, his phone buzzing again. His brows knit as he answered. Yes, confirmed Rotnell. She's stable. Understood. Anything? When he hung up, he looked almost shaken. They already know, he murmured. Who knows? I asked. The Morrow family, he said softly. They're extremely wealthy. Their patriarch, Henri Morrow, has a rare blood disorder. He's had a massive internal bleed. Without compatible blood, the surgery can't happen. I felt my throat tighten. You mean my blood could save him? He nodded. Exactly that. For a moment, the room seemed to tilt. Only hours earlier, I'd been a failure selling plasma for groceries. Now, strangers across an ocean knew my name, or at least, my blood type. The door burst open again. Keely slipped back inside, her face flushed. Dr. Brennan, there's a woman here. Says she's from Monaco. He straightened his coat. Send her in. The woman who entered didn't belong in that grimy plasma center. She looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Tall, elegant, a gray tailored suit that screamed money. Her eyes, dark and steady, locked onto me. Miss Hart, she said, extending her hand. I'm Lucia Corvello, representative of the Morrow family. Her handshake was firm but cold, businesslike. One of our family members is dying, she said. We've searched globally for a donor. You are the only match. I stared at her, speechless. What exactly are you asking me to do? Come with us, she said. Our private jet is waiting. We can be in Monaco in under 12 hours. Dr. Brennan glanced at me. They're offering compensation, Violet. Substantial compensation. How substantial? I asked carefully. Lucia hesitated, then said quietly, $2 million. The room fell silent. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. 2 million. For my blood? I whispered. For a life, Lucia corrected. Yours can save his. I looked down at the faint bruise forming where the needle pierced my skin. A few hours ago, that arm had been worthless now. It was worth millions. And yet, a single question burned louder than all the others. Why me? I asked. Lucia's gaze flickered. Because, Miss Hart, she said softly, this isn't just coincidence, it's heritage. For a long moment, I couldn't speak. Heritage? The word sounded strange coming from Lucia's lips, crisp and deliberate. Dr. Brennan exchanged a glance with her, as if debating whether to continue. Finally, he exhaled. Miss Hart, when we identified your Arch null type, our system automatically ran a genetic panel. It's standard protocol for rare donors. And? I asked, wary. He turned the tablet toward me. Charts, sequences, percentages meaningless to my eyes, but his tone carried weight. We found a set of genetic markers specific to a very small European bloodline, the Morrow family of Monaco. I laughed softly, shaking my head. You're saying I'm related to billionaires? I grew up in Wichita, Kansas. My mom was a waitress. My dad drove trucks. Lucia stepped closer, setting her expensive leather bag on the table. Your mother's name? She asked. Rachel Whitmore, I said. And your father? Tom Hart. Why? Lucia's expression shifted, part recognition, part calculation. Rachel Whitmore, she murmured, as if tasting the name. She once worked for the Morrow family, decades ago. That's impossible, I said. My mother never even left the country. Are you certain? Lucia's voice softened. Because we have records of a Rachel Whitmore, American, who was employed as a translator for Henri Morrow's brother in the early 1980s. The air left my lungs. His brother? Vincent Morrow. He disappeared in 1985. The family believed he fled after a dispute with Henri. Around that same year, Rachel left Monaco without notice. I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. Are you telling me my father isn't my father? Dr. Brennan lowered his voice. We can't confirm that, but your DNA matches the Morrow genetic signature at 99.7%. It's not coincidence, Violet. It's lineage. For a moment, all I could hear was the soft hum of the machines. I'd come here to earn $50. Now these people were telling me that my entire life, my parents, my identity might be built on a lie. I need to call my dad, I said, fumbling for my phone. Dr. Brennan nodded quietly. Do that. But hurry, time is short. When he stepped out, Lucia remained, watching me like a negotiator sizing up her opponent. Why now? I asked. Why me? Because Henri is dying, and you're the only living blood relative who can save him. The family has searched for Vincent's line for decades. You mean my father? Lucia's gaze softened for the first time. Yes, your father. I pressed call. It rang twice before a familiar, gravelly voice answered. Vi, everything okay? Dad, did Mom ever work in Monaco? Silence. Then, a slow, heavy sigh. You found out, didn't you? My chest tightened. So it's true? Your mother met a man named Vincent while working overseas, he said quietly. She came home pregnant. I married her knowing it wasn't mine. She asked me to protect you from that world, from their money, their name. You lied to me my whole life. I raised you, Violet. That part wasn't a lie. Tears blurred my vision. I turned away so Lucia wouldn't see. Dad, I whispered. There's a man in Monaco, Henri Morrow. He's dying. My blood can save him. Then go, he said simply. Don't hate your mother for what she did. She wanted you to have an ordinary life. I wiped my eyes, steadied my breath, and looked back at Lucia. I'll go, I said, but not for the money. Her lips curved faintly. Of course not, Miss Hart. But it doesn't hurt, does it? 10 minutes later, I was in the back of a black sedan with tinted windows, my thoughts colliding with every passing streetlight. The driver didn't speak. Lucia's phone buzzed endlessly. When we reached the private airstrip, a sleek white jet gleamed under the floodlights. I paused at the steps, gripping the rail. 6 hours ago, I'd been a woman with $47 to her name. Now, I was flying across the world to save a man who might be my uncle, to meet a family who didn't know I existed, and to uncover a truth my mother had buried with her. As the engines roared to life, Lucia leaned toward me and said quietly, Welcome home, Miss Hart. The hum of the jet engines was steady, almost hypnotic, but my thoughts were anything but calm. I stared out the oval window at the ocean of clouds below, my reflection faint against the glass, a woman suspended between two worlds, neither belonging to the one she left behind nor ready for the one ahead. Lucia sat across from me, tapping rapidly on her phone in French. The flight attendants whispered, prepping medical supplies and silver cases stamped with the Morrow crest. I wrapped my arms around myself, still wearing the same faded jacket from Kansas. Are you afraid of flying, Miss Hart? Lucia asked suddenly. I'm afraid of everything, I said quietly, including finding out who I really am. She gave a small smile, not unkind, just weary. Truth is heavier than altitude, but necessary. Silence filled the cabin again. I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over my father's contact. Tom Hart. No, Vincent Morrow. When I finally hit call, my hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Vi? His voice was soft, worn by age and guilt. Dad, I whispered. I'm on a plane to Monaco. A long pause. I could hear the slow breath of a man bracing for the past. So, you met them? Lucia. She said my blood can save someone named Henri Morrow. My uncle, Henri. The way he said it, half pain, half nostalgia, told me everything. It's true then, I said. You're Vincent. You left them. You left him. His silence was the only confirmation I needed. Why didn't you tell me? I demanded, my voice breaking. Why let me grow up thinking we were just ordinary? Because I wanted you free, Violet. His tone was raw. Henri and I were raised in gold cages. Expectations, money, bloodlines, every decision made for us. When I met your mother, I saw the first real thing in my life. So I walked away. Walked away? From an empire? From a prison, he corrected. Tears burned behind my eyes. Mom knew? She did. She swore to protect you from that world. She loved you, Vi, more than her own comfort. The engines droned louder, the air pressure thick with emotion. Henri's dying, I said softly. And I'm the only one who can save him. Then save him, he whispered. And tell him I forgave him decades ago. What did he do? He wanted me to inherit everything, my father said. But I didn't want the crown. He couldn't understand that love meant more than legacy. I swallowed the lump in my throat. He'll know soon. There was a beat of silence before he spoke again, his voice trembling now. Violet, listen. Whatever happens there, remember blood might connect you, but choice defines you. You're my daughter because I chose you. Don't forget that. My vision blurred completely. I won't. Good. Then go do what only you can do. The call ended, but his words stayed, echoing louder than the engines. Lucia watched me wipe my tears and said softly, He told you the truth, didn't he? I nodded. He did. And he told me to save his brother. For the first time, Lucia's expression cracked respect, maybe even empathy. Vincent was the only Morrow who ever walked away from power, she said. Henri respected that, though he never said so aloud. The plane began its descent, the coastline of Monaco glimmering below a ribbon of gold and sapphire. When the wheels touched down, I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The hospital waiting for us looked like a palace, marble floors, chandeliers, and men in suits speaking in hushed French. I felt small again, like the broke woman from Kansas, out of place in every sense. Lucia guided me through the sterile corridors until we reached a private suite. Machines beeped softly. A frail man lay surrounded by doctors. His hair was silver, his skin translucent, but his eyes, those eyes mirrored mine. Henri, Lucia said gently. This is Violet. He turned his head toward me, his lips trembling. You look like Rachel, he whispered. You're Vincent's daughter. My heart stuttered. Yes, I said, voice breaking. And I'm here to save you. He smiled weakly. Then perhaps, you're saving more than just me. As the medical team prepared the transfusion line, I glanced at the IV bag, the tubing, the familiar red that had once meant shame and poverty. Now it meant life, heritage, redemption. The nurse slid the needle in, and I felt the slow, rhythmic pull as my blood began to flow toward him. My father's brother, my mother's secret, my own beginning. Henri reached out, his thin fingers closing around my hand. You have no idea, he whispered, what this means to our family. Tears fell freely now. Maybe I do, I said. Because this isn't just saving you, it's saving who I am. And for the first time in years, as the golden blood flowed, I didn't feel broken. I felt whole. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the tall hospital windows, overlooking the Mediterranean. I sat in the same chair beside Henri's bed, the bandage still fresh on my arm. My body ached, but something inside me felt lighter, as if I'd emptied out more than blood. Henri stirred, eyes fluttering open. His voice was faint but clear. You stayed. I wanted to see you wake up, I said, smiling softly. Guess I had a reason to now. He chuckled weakly. You have your grandmother's smile. Vincent always said she was too kind for our world. At the mention of my father's name, emotion rose in my throat. He's alive, I said quietly. He asked me to tell you that he forgave you, 40 years ago. Henri turned his head toward the window, his eyes glistening. Forgave me? No, it's I who should ask his forgiveness. I tried to make him someone he never wanted to be. When he left, I told myself he'd come back once he realized I was right. He looked at me again, voice breaking. He never came back. But now I understand why. He chose freedom and love, and he gave the world you. The room fell silent. I didn't know how to respond, so I simply reached for his hand and held it, letting the unspoken fill the space between us. That afternoon, his daughter Isabelle entered poised, elegant, but her smile genuine. She looked like someone who carried both privilege and responsibility on her shoulders. I owe you my father's life, she said, sitting opposite me. You don't owe me anything, I replied. You owe him your years ahead. That's enough. Still, she said, sliding an envelope across the table. The transfer has been completed, $2 million, as promised. I stared at the envelope, stunned. It feels wrong, I murmured. I didn't do it for the money. Then use it for something right, she said. My father built things. So did you. Perhaps it runs in the blood. The words landed deeper than she knew. Later that evening, Henri requested to see me one last time before discharge. He sat upright now, color slowly returning to his face. Violet, he said. Vincent once told me he'd rather build one honest life with his hands than inherit 1,000 built on other men's backs. I never understood that until now. He reached for a small velvet box on the table and opened it. Inside was a delicate gold pendant shaped like a drop of blood. It belonged to our mother, he said. She believed our family's greatest gift was not what we owned, but what flowed within us. My eyes stung. I can't accept this. You already have. Henri smiled. It recognizes its own. When I left the hospital that night, the Monaco air smelled of salt and jasmine. I looked out over the harbor, where yachts glittered under the moonlight, and thought of my parents. My mother, who had run from this world, and my father, who had built a new one with nothing but his will. Lucia met me outside the car. Everything settled? She asked. As much as it can be, I said. Henri wants you to know the Morrow family considers you one of their own now. That's kind, I replied, glancing toward the sea. But I already have a family. I just didn't know how much of it lived inside me. As the car pulled away, the pendant in my hand caught the last streak of sunset, a tiny glimmer of gold, warm as life itself. For the first time in years, I didn't feel lost between worlds. I was finally both a daughter of Kansas and of Monaco, a woman reborn, not through fortune or fame but through the blood that had always carried her home. When I returned to Kansas, the world looked different, smaller somehow, but gentler. The January wind that once felt like punishment now brushed my face like an invitation. I wasn't the same woman who had left. I wasn't just Violet Hart, the failed contractor, or Violet Morrow, the lost heir. I was both. And for the first time, that felt enough. Dad, Tom Hart, or rather Vincent, met me at the old diner off Highway 24, the one where Mom used to wait tables. He was already seated in our old booth, 2 steaming cups of coffee waiting. When I slid into the seat across from him, he smiled with eyes full of history. You saw him, he said. Yes, I whispered. He's alive. He forgave you. The words broke something open in him. His hands trembled as he reached across the table, covering mine. Your mother would have been proud, he said. You did what neither of us could, brought peace back into our bloodline. I looked at him for a long time, realizing he was right. The shame, the hiding, the pretending, it all ended here. 2 weeks later, I used part of the Morrow money to reopen Hart Construction. Not the company that built skyscrapers for profit, but one that rebuilt homes for families destroyed by storms, fires, and bad luck. We called it Rebuild Hope. It wasn't glamorous, but it mattered. Sometimes, as I watched my crew lay the first brick of a new foundation, I'd think of that moment in the Plasma Center, how desperate I'd been, how empty. And how, in the space of a single heartbeat, my life had split in two, before I knew what flowed inside me, and after. That night, sitting on my porch, I unfastened the gold pendant Henri had given me. The small drop-shaped charm glimmered faintly in the fading light. I thought of him, of my mother's courage, of my father's quiet love, of the nurse who didn't look away when I was just another broke woman with a bruised arm. Now I understood. The rarest thing about us isn't what we own or achieve, it's what we carry unknowingly, waiting to be revealed when the world finally asks for it. I once sold my blood for $50. But in giving it away, I discovered something priceless. That sometimes, the miracle isn't what you have. It's what's been flowing within you all along.